Hi, everyone. Kumar Datatran here with the Meridian Point. It's been a long day, and I can't say my words. Today, we're joined by Rich Sheridan, co-founder, CEO, and chief storyteller at Menlo Innovations, a software company so radically different that 3,000 people a year travel from 4 continents just to watch them work. Not to learn about code, but to witness something most workplaces have never figured out, a culture deliberately designed for joy. Rich is the author of 2 best-selling books, Joy, Inc. and Chief Joy Officer, and has spent the last 2 decades proving that human energy, not pressure or fear, is the ultimate competitive advantage. He's here today to challenge everything you think you know about how great work actually gets done. So without further ado, let me invite Rich to the stage. Thank you so much for joining us today, Rich.
Great to be with you, Kumar.
Thank you. Rich, from the outside, your career looks like a huge success story, right? VP title, promotion, stock options. By your mid-30s, you said you were dying inside. What was actually breaking down, and what was the moment that made you realize something had to fundamentally change?
You know, I started out in this profession of developing software when I was just a kid, and I thought this is going to be the coolest profession ever. I got a couple of degrees. I was well prepared. I was trained. I think I was pretty good at it. And yes, the outside world measurements looked perfect. Inside, I was disillusioned. So what was the delta? Why could I have like all this worldly success, but feeling like I just wanted out? I was literally contemplating a canoe camp in the Boundary Waters, Minnesota as a career. And it was that I just looked at the results. Either I was personally producing when I was a programmer, or the teams I was leading was producing. But we're delivering poor quality. We're frustrating end users. The team of people who worked for me were frustrated. The people who were paying me to do the work were kept demanding more, and I was missing deadlines and blowing budgets. And I thought, there's got to be a better way, or maybe I'm just not smart enough and I should get out.
Yeah, interesting. So what was the next thing you did to either get out or figure out a better way, or what happened?
Yeah, so I'm if my extra title was on the card, if it fit, it'd probably be chief optimist. I was stuck in a room full of manure, and I knew there had to be a pony in this room somewhere. I kept looking at everything because it wasn't. I realized, at first I thought, oh, maybe I just changed jobs and I'd look get better. And then I talked to my peers, and they were having all the same trouble I was. And then I realized inside of this, there must be an opportunity. And so I started reading books. And old books by old guys, Tom Peters' In Search of Excellence, Peter Drucker's books on management, Peter Senge's book, The Fifth Discipline, on the art and practice of building a learning organization. And all of these books were telling me the same thing. Yes, indeed, Rich, there's a better way. Your job is to find it. And what dawned on me was the challenge I was facing was not a technological challenge. This wasn't being a smarter programmer. This was about how do we organize the humans more effectively. And that became my journey. I didn't actually know exactly what it was I was looking for. I just knew I would know it when I found it. And that happened about 1999.
Interesting. Is that when Menlo Innovations was founded? Created?
No, actually 2 years before. I was a VP for a couple of years at that point at Interface. I was toying with some new ideas. I was following some key thinkers in the industry, people like Kent Beck on something he dubbed extreme programming, the IDEO mentality around design thinking. And suddenly this sort of clicked in, where suddenly all became clear. And over 2 years, I reinvented that tired old public company I was a VP for, got back to joy. I didn't use that term then, but it's certainly the feeling I had. And for those 2 years, I was enjoying work again. I felt like we were productive. And then it was all taken away from me in 2001 when the internet bubble burst. I couldn't take away what I had learned in those 2 years. And that became the basis for Menlo's founding in 2001.
Okay. So most people don't realize that Menlo Innovation is named after Thomas Edison's Menlo Park Lab.
Yes.
And you've said that you didn't invent a new culture so much as copy an old one. What did Edison figure out about innovation and human collaboration that the modern workplace has maybe lost?
Yeah, I was I was in a very fortunate position, having grown up in Southeast Michigan. We're in Ann Arbor, Michigan now, and just 20-ish miles from here is this wonderful place that Henry Ford created called Greenfield Village, and he built it around the Edison Menlo Park, New Jersey lab that he literally transported from Menlo Park, New Jersey to Dearborn, Michigan to build this historic park. And any kid who grew up in Southeast Michigan got to visit that lab every year in the summer. Usually you take a summer trip there. And I got goosebumps just being in that room, right? This big open and collaborative workspace, people working on different experiments all at the same time, and a failure on the light bulb might lead to success on the telephone transceiver. And, Edison realized that the human energy of a team, and I didn't find this out, I wasn't figuring this out when I was a kid. I started reading books about that experience in later years. And Edison really had captured this idea that the human energy of a team, the camaraderie that exists in a wide open space of people working shoulder to shoulder on wonderful, innovative projects, and that spark that can come when you've got a bunch of creative people all sitting shoulder to shoulder, maybe even getting frustrated from time to time, but supporting each other through those frustrations. And then it started changing the world. And I think we still have lots to learn from that example from the 1800s.
Yeah. That is I've experienced that, and I call it sort of a state of flow that I feel it, right? Because the ideas that I have are complemented by ideas that my coworkers have, and this, you achieve the state of flow, psychological flow, I guess maybe psychosomatic flow, whatever it might be, right? It just feels good.
Yeah.
And those moments are exhilarating. They're exciting because you're in this creative space where ideas are flowing naturally, and you're actually creating value. You can see it, you can feel it, you can touch it. It feels more tangible than working alone. But not everybody is like that, right? So I'm fairly outgoing. I'm more extroverted than I am introverted. But I do see that in my career, that there are people that don't like that open workplace, the open work plan. They like to sort of have their own office or their own private space, and they can work in an open space, but not all the time. Has that been your experience as well with Menlo Labs?
Yeah. So, Kumar, what I would say is, number one, we didn't build the company to work for everyone, and it doesn't. And we have a very particular and peculiar, even, which we can get into if you want, interviewing process that helps people understand how is it that we work, why do we work that way, and why do we believe it's valuable for us. But I will say very clearly, we do not believe we have found the one true way of working here. We found a way that works for us.
Yeah.
Very certain about it, and we're very clear about it. We set clear expectations about it. But what I will say about the introvert extrovert equation is it doesn't line up here as you might expect. What we've discovered over 25 years of working like this is, number one, this team, given what we do for a living and the kind of people who are attracted to our type of place, are probably 80% introverted, some of them very deeply so. Right. And I often say this place wouldn't survive if it were filled with extroverts, because nobody would be listening to one another very well. But what introverts prefer, at least our experience with it, isn't sensory deprivation and isolation. It's fewer, safer, deeper relationships with other people. And they get that here. And I think the magic of Menlo is this one simple construct we use that's very powerful and very unusual. Everybody here works in pairs, 2 people, 1 computer all day long. The keyboard and mouse going back and forth between them as they collaborate. This isn't come help me with my work. This is our work done together. And we switch those pairs every 5 business days at least.
Mm.
So what's interesting is even people who prefer library quiet come here, and after a while, it usually takes 2 or 3 weeks for their brains to kind of settle the background noise. They found out it's a lot like being in a busy coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
I could sit in the middle of a busy Starbucks and have a great one-on-one conversation with each other, and our brain is just blocking out the other noise.
Yeah.
Because we're engaged with each other. And that's the same thing that happens here. I don't think Menlo would work as well if we were all doing individual tasks by ourselves in a noisy environment where people on their cell phones half the day. Because the real problem with phone conversations in a noisy space is the brain is actively trying to figure out who's he talking to? What's he talking about? I can only hear half the conversation, and you just get totally distracted. Again, we don't have that here because you can hear both sides of the conversation.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense, and I reflect on my own personality. You know, it is, I've developed this ability to be more out there and open, and you know, I'm hosting this podcast. I wouldn't have thought I would ever host a podcast 20 years ago, but here I am hosting a podcast. And I think you're right. I think that introverts so my experience, I think I shared this with you in our prep call, was with a company, Carfax, back in the late 2008, 2007, 2009 timeframe. And they were early adopters of XP, and like Menlo Labs, they were quite selective in who they brought in to their company and their hiring practices and their hiring process. It wasn't any manager hiring them. It was a team that hired them. For fit, number one, and number two, for their ability, their skills, their capabilities, because I think that they were more interested in how they fit with the team. And like you described, the pairing, they paired more often. I think they switched partners more often than you're currently doing.
A lot of people do. They might switch on a task by task or story card by story card basis, or switch every day, or you know, have one pair write the unit tests, another pair. You know, again, like I say, we haven't found the one true way of working. We've just found a way that works for us.
Yeah. No, and I remember from working there, I just thought that those were some of the most productive and happy teams that I had ever been around.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people don't realize about software development is programmers often get stuck.
Yeah.
And if we're in a room by ourselves and we get stuck, we kind of stay stuck for a while. And sometimes stuck is, you know, thinking of the next idea and you're just kind of contemplating. Sometimes stuck is you're hammering away on the keyboard and you're generating the wrong code, but very quickly. By the way, I'm going to add one thing in our conversation just to make sure your audience doesn't get confused. I think there is actually a place called Menlo Labs. We are called Menlo Innovations. And your audience might go off looking for Menlo Labs and like, oh, this didn't seem like the guy that I was talking to. So,
got it. Well, thank you for that clarification. I'm curious about the impact of AI, if it's had any, on the way you work, your ways of working now, because you read about a lot about developers pairing with an agent, right, to do the pair programming work, or several agents, perhaps a coding agent, a testing agent, and so on and so forth. Are you experimenting with that at all, or?
Absolutely. You would be silly not to be right now. Obviously, we're in a new age of our industry, a new moment. And AI is going to be a very big moment for a very long period of time. I think there's no question, you know, any of us like you and I have been around for a while. We've had these moments in our careers, right? Whether it was, you know, the PC way back when, or the internet and the web, and then devices like, you know, our pocket phones and that sort of thing, versus, you know, the cloud computing. And now we're in another one of those. There's no question it's going to have an impact on our work and work of everybody in our industry. Our fundamental attitude is that we'll use AI to enhance and supplement the humans, but not replace the humans. And we are running a number of experiments right now probably like a lot of companies are. We're trying to figure out what works, what doesn't. It's also a highly rapidly moving target.
Yeah.
We could say something that's true today, and 3 weeks from today, it's no longer true.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the biggest value of what we've created here at Menlo is this idea of having built that learning organization that says, hey, let's try stuff. Let's not contemplate too long. Let's run some experiments, see what works, see what doesn't. And, and I think with the AI tools today, it's not good enough to say, oh, we tried them, they didn't work, because 3 weeks from today, that may be completely different. So we have to stay as up to date as possible. And you might guess my team is, mostly programmers here. They're utterly fascinated and, a little bit worried and nervous about what does it mean for their careers. My personal belief is that we are entering an age where the coding activities will pale in comparison to the software engineering mindset that is going to be required to build robust enterprise-level systems with these new tools. This is not going to remove the need for good software engineering minds.
Yeah, that's my take as well. At least with the current state of AI, and who knows what that will look like, and and like to your point, 3 weeks from now, or a year from now, for that matter. Yeah. But I suspect that the change is here to stay, right? And we're going to have to adapt with it. I also suspect that your company, all your developers are, I can see them behind you, right? So there they are. And so your company's not one where people can work remotely and do so effectively, at least in the model that you have.
Yeah. So we are 5 days a week in the office. However, everybody gets 12 elective work from home days per year. So at any given day, there's going to be people working from home. We just prefer the environment where most of us are together all day long. We believe there's a lot easier human communication if I can just call across the room to, hey, Kumar. Sure. What we lovingly refer to as high-speed voice technology works better than electronics. But know, too, that in a lot of our projects, half of the pair are our clients' people, because we pair with our clients when we're doing work so that we can transfer skills, transfer some of our methodology, and transfer the knowledge of what we're building into our client's organization. And virtually exclusively, those people on our clients' teams are going to be remote to us, because they are typically far away from Ann Arbor, Michigan. They might come in every now and then. But by and large, we're doing a lot of remote pairing, much like you and I are remote pairing right now.
Right.
To do a podcast, that happens in our room as well.
Okay, interesting. Are you finding it hard to find people that are like, oh my God, no, I don't want to go into an office. I want to work from home?
So the last time we put out an ad, and we were very clear, we're like, look, this is 5 days a week in the office in downtown Ann Arbor, Michigan. We got 500 applicants for 4 positions. We are having no trouble. Quite frankly, I think there's an interesting twist going on right now. And again, everybody's mileage is going to be different. But people who've been 4, 5, 6 years remote are kind of waking up like, gosh, I need human contact at work. Yeah. And so I think that's who we're catching now, are the people who've been doing it long enough, thought that was what they wanted to do for the rest of their careers. And then one day they started feeling really lonely, really isolated, maybe excluded from the end of a few meetings, because once the Zoom call ended, they figured out that the people in the office continued the conversation, not out of meanness or anything, just natural human tendency, right? But so we're finding that there's a lot of people who are like, thank you.
Yeah, my son is probably one of them. My younger son, we
just need a good population of people who want to do that. We don't need everybody to think.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're right. I think I've certainly missed being in an office and being around people all the time. And the work that I do, the coaching that I do, it's a people business. And when you're disconnected and you're on a Teams call or a Zoom call, people don't always have their cameras on, and it's hard to get the same level of connection you have when you're sitting across from them, in a room or in a hallway or whatever it might be.
Yeah, one very large organization who copied our model as close as they could. inside of a large company. And but then the pandemic hit, and then they came back a couple of years after the pandemic ended, if that's even a thing. And they said, "Hey, we'd like to talk to you again. We're having a little trouble."
Mm.
So we got together, and I said, "Well, what's going on?" They said, "Oh, we're really struggling with collaboration."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Are you back in the office?" They said, "No, we gave up our office. We're now 100% remote."
Mm.
I said, "That'll make it harder. I mean, there's a few extra things you need to do when you're 100% remote." I said, "Let me ask you another question, though." I said, "Are you a cameras on or a cameras off culture?" I said, "Oh, 100% cameras off." And
Off?
that's off. And they said, "That's a corporate edict. We cannot require cameras to be on. So we're fair to everybody. Everybody's cameras off." And I smiled and I looked at him. I said, "I don't know how to help you."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, could you and I do this? Cameras off? Sure.
No. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. All day long? I don't know.
I don't know that I'd want to work in a place like that where I can't see the people that I'm working with.
Yeah, right. And, and I get, there's some fairness algorithm they were applying that, maybe half the team was showing up, with their hair and in their pajamas all day or something. I don't know. It was like, ooh.
Yeah, I was supporting
that was breathtaking to me to hear him say that.
Yeah, it is. But I was supporting a client where it was similar. It was like, well, we can't make them turn the cameras on. But as a coach, I'm like, well, you have to so that you can get to know one another.
Yeah.
So I went to a meeting once and I had a paper bag over my head with eyes cut out so I could see. And I just wanted to see if people would notice. And someone did ask, "Why do you have a bag over your head?" And I said, "Well, I figured, this would be the equivalent of going to a meeting in person, but not wanting to show your face."
I love it. I'm going to try that. That's awesome.
And it worked. It worked for a while. So most meetings after that, if they knew I was there, they would turn their cameras on. I don't know how well it worked when I wasn't there, but
yeah,
I think it was reasonably successful. I think
I think this is, I love this John Naisbitt quote, and it came from 1982 when he wrote Megatrends. He said the most exciting advances of the 21st century are going to occur not because of technology, but because of an advancing concept of what it means to be human. And in this part of the conversation, I think what we're exploring is human communication is not just about the spoken word.
Yeah.
Body language, it's intonation, it's inflection, it's eyebrow. It's, am I making, you and I are making eye contact right now. Even though we're in separate places. And that's just really important. And I want to see, are people in the room drifting off? Are they smiling? Are they, are they ho-hum? There's so much to communication that, cognitive psychologists could probably go on for hours about. And we turn off the camera, we lose most of it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, my dog, he's around here somewhere. He understands me so well. That's because he's so tuned into not necessarily the words, although he does understand lots of the words I say, but the way I say them, the way I look at them and stuff. And that's a dog, right? I mean, not to minimize what a dog is. They're amazing creatures.
Yeah.
Humans, I think we tend to forget how much we rely on body language as a means of communication.
And there's probably a whole bunch more we relied on that we don't even know.
Yeah.
For example, I mean, there are dogs that can literally smell whether you're having a diabetes moment or something like that. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
How on earth do they do that? And then, you hear the sympathetic heartbeats that occur between, a parent and a child or a dog owner and a dog. It's like, we're probably doing that in meetings too. We just don't realize.
Yeah. I feel like we're simpatico, Rich. I mean, I feel like I'm connecting with you on another level here through the camera.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I wanted to shift back to joy.
Yeah.
Joy makes a lot of executives maybe a little uncomfortable. They picture, ping pong tables and free snacks, but you built a real operating system around around this idea of joy using, and I think in our last conversation you talked about this, using an airplane analogy, right? So lift, thrust, weight, and drag.
Yep.
How does that framework explain what's actually killing most organizations today in terms of a lack of joy, I suppose?
Yeah. So what I do is I compare the forces at work on a human organization to the forces you described that are at work on an airplane. And so the analogy for me is that one of the most squandered energy forces on the planet is the lift of human energy.
Mm.
And, how could I make such a impactful statement about it? Because the Gallup organization has been measuring us decade in, decade out. So 60 to 70% of people that are disengaged at work, and that needle hasn't moved an ounce in like the last 50 years. And this is a fundamental failure of leadership to capture that human energy and elevate it as much as possible. I think, simple things like clarity over ambiguity, giving people the ability to go to work and get meaningful things done. There's a lot of things we can do to lift up the human energy of our team. And that lift has to overcome the weight of bureaucracy. Load, policies and procedure manuals. I often joke with large corporate audiences that if you want to suck the human energy out of your team, it's a simple 3-step formula. Have lots of meetings. Don't make any decisions in those meetings. And if perchance by mistake you happen to make a decision, just don't act on it. And you will literally pull the life out of your organization. The thrust that pulls us forward is a thrust of a really well-defined and well-understood externally focused purpose. For us, joy translates to delighting the people we intend to serve, the end users of the software we're designing and developing here. If we get back from them that they love what we created, that's joy for us. So that kind of purpose-based vision, like I say, it should be external. It should be able to answer 2 simple questions. Who do you serve and what would delight look like for them? And I always encourage people to look past their paying customers. We do. The end users are not the people who pay us for what we do, but that's who we're trying to delight. And then the drag that holds us back is the drag of fear. I think if you wrote a book that was the opposite of Joy Inc., it would be called Fear Inc., because fear actually literally robs us of our humanity. If you think about the things that make us the most human, especially in this age of AI, creativity, imagination, invention, innovation, ingenuity, wonder, love, kindness, all of those things that make us the most human are literally robbed from us when we are afraid. We go to reptile brain, we shut off the most interesting part of our brain. So if we pump fear into the room, rather than what leaders should do is try and pump as much fear as possible out of the room, we will literally rob ourselves of the most human and most effective human parts of our team.
I love that. I love the way the framework is quite simple, but it's got so much weight to it and so much meaning to it. I think it's easy to explain, easy for people to understand. So I might just use it, or
you go right ahead.
Write something around it, because I think it's a very powerful metaphor. The airplane as a metaphor for an organization and what keeps it uplift, right?
Well, and I will say for me personally, you asked about Edison and that sort of thing. That's one of the things he had in that room. There was camaraderie. There was human energy. Was there competitiveness? I'm sure there was. But they're all trying to build on these really big ideas. I mean, what an amazing time to think like we were going from sort of no use of electricity to use of electricity. We're going from no telephones to the use of telephone. We go from no recorded music to recorded music. I mean, what an amazing time to be in an innovation lab when you're working on, the mass producible electric light bulb or telephone transceiver. Like, holy cow, right? I feel so inadequate for the stuff we do here, when you think of the big things they were working on.
Yeah, it must have been an amazing time back then. You use a term or a job title, I guess, in your company, a high-tech anthropologist. Right? My brother is an anthropologist by trade. He teaches actually at NYU, and I know what he does. What does a high-tech anthropologist do?
So let me offer up to your brother and other anthropologists that he probably teaches that I believe one of our roles at Menlo is to give hope to parents around the world that their children who got an anthropology degree might actually have a high-paying job someday. But it's serious now. A lot of people ask us, why would you need anthropologists on a software team? And if you simply accept that one day, whatever we're designing and building will be used by humans who are not themselves engineers, we better understand those people the way an anthropologist would by studying the people we intend to serve in their native environment the way an anthropologist would, and more through observation than through interview. We will interview people, but we're more keen about the observations. See how people make mistakes and design those mistakes out of the system. See where they self-efface and say, oh, you know me, I'm just a stupid user. No, we gotta, we have to delight them. We have to honor what they know. And the way to do that is to truly understand them the way an anthropologist would. I'd love to hear about the next conversation you have with your brother, just with this piece of the conversation. See what he thinks.
Yeah, for sure. I think he would be. I'm hoping that he watches this when it as it airs, and has some feedback. But yeah, I will definitely ask him about that. And I do like the idea of software engineers being or adopting that mindset of anthropology, right? So they really need to really understand what they're building or who they're building for. They need to understand why they're building it and how they would use it, and the observation piece I think is missing.
Yeah, and I want to just, I don't think I said it in the earlier part. I want to emphasize this. And when we study those end users, we study them in their native environment.
Right.
Because if we pull them out to do a focus group or pull them into we will have lost 90% of the information we need to truly understand what is their job about? What's the lighting like? We did a diesel motor diagnostic tool, and it was important for us to see how dirty the environment was, how well lit it was, where they would be able to set the tool because they don't have a desk nearby. How heavy should it be? What type of work do these people do? Oh my gosh, they wear rubber gloves because they don't want to get cancer, causing chemicals on their skin. So that's going to affect the display.
Yeah.
Whether if it's a touch screen, it better be pressure sensitive, not electrostatic. All those kind of things we would have never even thought to ask if we'd invited them to a conference room at Menlo. I'd say, tell me about your day. Tell me about what you need this product to do. We go out and we watch them work.
Yeah. I mean, I think more companies need to do that. I mean, all companies that are designing software need to do that to really get an understanding of how it's used.
We were inspired by IDEO, the industrial design firm in California, because when they did that deep dive episode on Nightline where they redesigned the shopping cart in just 5 days, first thing they did was they sent their team out into the world to watch people shop with existing shopping carts. And that was like part of that click moment for me of like, yes, that's what we need.
That really is anthropology. So you're right in that, in calling them high-tech anthropologists. It's like, how are people using these tools in the environment that they would typically use them, and how can we make it a delightful experience, right?
And so learn things like, what's their vocabulary? I mean, how often have you gotten a piece of software and it used all the terms the engineers know, but the people who use it every day are like, why does it use that word?
Yeah.
I mean, here's a simple one, right? I just throw it out there for all the engineers in the audience. Most web forms have a button called submit. Now, there's a reason we call it submit, because the HTTP command is a submit command. So why wouldn't we call it submit? But most people think of submit like, I submit to you, Kumar. I remember trying to teach my wife how to do email once, way back when it was just first coming out. And she's like, hey, I want to write an email. And I said, yeah, click the new button. She goes, no, I don't want to get my new email. I want to write it. Yeah, click the new button. And we would watch that happen. Our anthropologists would. And they'd be like, hey, you were confused by the new button. What would you call it? And they'd say, oh, I'd call it right, because I want a new email. Oh, so we just literally put a little Post-it note on mock up and write the word right and say, okay, now what would you? Yep, that's the button I click. And so we just use those simple interactions to keep designing the errors out of the system.
That's fascinating.
I mean, how many things do you use every day where you're like, what were they thinking?
Yeah, all the time. It happens all the time. You're right about that. It's just you just sort of decipher the meaning of something because it's not clear. It's not intuitive. That's
how many of us get frustrated with stupid chip reading credit card machines?
Yeah.
Like I've been using credit cards since I was like 18 years old. I run a friggin' software company, and it's amazing how often I'm trying to use my credit card, and it's like it's not working the way I would expect.
Yeah.
Like, how hard could this be?
It shouldn't be hard. You're right. I'm trying to think what I should ask next because I've got a list of questions here that are all really good, but I'm also looking at the time and it's getting to be about 35 minutes. So let's go here. So Menlo Innovations, I think in our prep conversation, I got from you that you effectively reorganize Menlo every week.
Yes.
And we talked about this a little bit before. For any leader that's listening to this conversation, that sounds like could be chaotic, right? So what does that look like for you at Menlo, and what could that look like for in another company?
Yeah. So when everybody some corporation comes, oh, we're doing a reorg, we're like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. I won't know who my boss is for another 6 months if I don't lose my job. So here, because it's this normal sequence, like every week we're declaring, and remember what we do for a living is we do billable work on client projects. We usually have 1,000 or so going at the same time. But those client projects some need to expand because they need more work done. Some are hitting the tail end of things, so they might contract. We might have finished a project, so that ends. And so in my old managerial life, it used to be very frustrating to me that I had some teams of people who were incredibly overworked at that moment in time. And I had another team that was whistling out the door at noon on a Friday because they were out of work. And I couldn't get those 4 people to help these 6 overworked people because they were, oh gosh, don't give us anybody new. It takes so long to spin them up and everything. But remember, when we pair people together, you and I paired together, sharing a keyboard and a mouse all day long, you and I are transferring information back and forth with one another. So the next week we split the pairs. So now you're paired with Bill and I'm paired with Susan. And now I have to bring Susan up to speed and you have to bring Bill up to speed, maybe on some work either one of us did the previous week. Now, you were sitting right nearby. So if I explain something and you over here, you're like, hey, Rich, you didn't get that quite right. But in this way, after 2 weeks, now we have 4 people who know something about this project. What's delightful about that is, we might do that a few times, and all of a sudden we've got 6 or 8 people who have some basic understanding of what we're doing. And maybe the team size in any given week is just 4 of us.
Mm-hmm.
But I have 6 or 8 people and now the client comes in and says, hey, go twice as fast. Mm-hmm. We're going to go find the other 4, bring them in, pair them in. And I will tell you, I've seen this for so long. In just a couple of weeks, that team is going twice as fast as the smaller. There's actually a law in software that says, Brooks' Law says you can't do that. It'll make it go slower if you do that. We just look at Brooks' Law as a quaint reminder of an industry misorganized. So we're always trying to be ready for that point of inflection. We're always trying to share knowledge among team members so there's no singular tower of knowledge. I once had a major league brand insurance company come in here, big company, you know them if you watch sports broadcasts or anything like that. And they said, Rich, if 4 programmers leave our team, just 4, it's a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Mm-hmm. If 4 programmers leave our team, we would go out of business tomorrow. God. Because they were all tower knowledge and nobody else knew what they knew. An insurance company is in the risk mitigation business. And we're willing to survive with that. That's ridiculous. And the only way you survive that is to throw gobs of money at those people so they don't even consider quitting. And they actually get bitter after a while because now they're stuck in this job they don't love. They can't find a job that pays the same, and they bought a house based on what they're, it's just a mess. And so we don't have that problem here. So people can take vacations without taking their laptops with them. It's delightful.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's something that creates joy, right? Because they're working on things that they may not have been working on last week. It's every week is a little new. It's a new experience for people, and they're learning all the time. They're learning something new.
And I very seldom meet people in our industry, Kumar, who say, you know what? I just want to do for the rest of my days what I learned in college. I mean, if that was true for me, I'd be programming in Algol. Most technologists are like, oh no, throw me into the new stuff. I want to learn how this works. We're curious. We have almost an insatiable appetite for the latest shiny objects.
Yeah, that is very true. I had experience with what you're describing at a couple of places where we tried that sort of informally tried that reorganization. We did sort of open space agile teams, right? So it was every quarter. It wasn't as frequently as you did it, but it was every quarter with the new sort of things that we're working on. How do you all think we should organize to get this work done? And so teams would just coalesce into small working groups that say, okay, I think we should work together because we have the skills to do this type of work. But I'm really intrigued by how organic it is in Menlo Innovations, that it just sort of happens, and you're able to shift and move people to where they're needed every week, right? So that's amazing.
And now let's be clear, our clients expect that they have the same people this week that they had last week, right?
Yeah.
Because you can imagine people, oh my gosh, everybody's coming up to speed every week on my project. That would be killer. So if we have 6 people on a project, week in and week out, it's probably going to be the same 6 for a while. But remember, with those 6 people, we got a lot of different combinations of pairs.
Yeah.
If you were one of those and Kumar says, hey, I'm taking a 2-week vacation, then we're going to bring somebody else in. Maybe somebody's been on the project before, maybe not. But we're going to pair them with a seasoned person on the team. And there's going to be knowledge transfer because you're getting onboarded on every week anyway. So you know how to be onboarded. Those who are with you know how to onboard new people into the project. And so you get pretty efficient and effective at building these new relationships, sharing the local knowledge you need for the work we're doing right now. And so after you come back from your 2-week vacation, we might put you back on the project. Or we might find, hey, the person we brought in to substitute for you is working pretty well. Let's put you over on this other project so you can do some new things.
No, that's fantastic. I'd love to work in an environment like that. I might not have left software.
We're hiring right now, Kumar, so come on up.
Will do. I'll take you up on that. All right, final question, unless you have some questions for me after this one. So you've had thousands of visitors come through Menlo, right? You watched people get inspired. They go home and try to build what you built. What would you say is the single biggest mistake they make, and what does it actually take to get to what you're doing?
I think often people, will come here and they'll be like, oh my gosh, look at how Menlo does this. We're going to start doing this next week. And they tear down all the walls, pull people out of their offices, make everybody come in put them in a big open room, and everybody's quitting left and right. And it's like, no, we didn't build an open and collaborative workspace. We built an open and collaborative culture.
Yeah.
Longer. Our workspace is a reflection of our cultural mindset.
Right.
It's cargo cult science if you just duplicate the workspace and expect your team will just magically change. So I would say, if anybody's going to, and again, I'm going to just say it clearly, we did not discover the one way of working. We found a way that works for us. If people are inspired enough to try some things we've tried, great. But I would say run small experiments, iterate, see what works for you, try new stuff, but don't change everything all at once, because humans don't do that well. They just don't.
Yeah. That's great advice. I don't know how many transformations I've been a part of where it's been sort of like what you described, just go and, make these wholesale changes. And it just doesn't work because people need time to process the change and make it real for them. Right. So it's a more deliberate approach. I definitely agree.
Well, I'm the CEO of the company, right? I could believe in my heart, well, I'm the boss and you have to do what I tell you to do. It's like, well, not really, because I can quit tomorrow. It's like, well, that kind of sucks. If I walk in all day and everybody's gone, then we're enjoying that, right?
Yeah.
And so we have to recognize that making change has to bring the humans along with it. If it doesn't, we're just pounding our fist on a table.
Yeah, it's not effective. And to your point, people will just leave.
or worse, they'll stay and they'll quit in place, right? And now you're just
they'll be one of the 70% that's disengaged and not really producing anything and just collecting a check, which is painful for them as well, right? So where's the joy in that? Yeah. All right, we're getting towards the end of our time, Rich. It's been really amazing conversation. Anything that I didn't ask that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I will just say, if people want to reach out to me, LinkedIn is a great way to do that. If they mention this podcast, I'll just accept their invite and answer their questions. If they want to come visit, they can do that. Just go to our website, go to the tours tab. We do 2 or 3 public free virtual tours every month. So you can come here by the click of a button. We love it when people come in person, but that's not practical for everybody. So we offer free virtual tours every month as well.
Very nice. I have a cousin that lives in Ann Arbor. So next time I'm there, I'll pay you a visit.
Wow. Is he in the tech industry?
No, he's a doctor of something. I forget what. Yeah, medical field.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, but it's been a pleasure, Rich. It's there's so much more I'd love to talk about and learn from you, but we'll have to schedule another podcast for that.
I would love that.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Come on.